It was 11:51 p.m. when the text message lit up my phone. It was from my mother, Brenda. "We've discussed your behavior tonight. We've agreed. You're no longer part of this family." Seconds later, a small heart icon appeared next to the message. My sister, Morgan, had liked it. I didn't cry. I didn't feel anger or sadness. I just felt a sudden, cold clarity. In pharmacy, we treat the patient with the symptoms, but in psychology, there's a concept called the identified patient. It's the one person in a dysfunctional system who carries the blame for everyone else's sickness. I wasn't their daughter. I was their identified patient. And that text wasn't an attack. It was a diagnosis. That diagnosis is why I was so calm. My reaction wasn't shock. It was the final, logical step in a very long, very painful equation. For 8 years, I had been working to get my Doctor of Pharmacy degree. That's 8 years of night shifts at a 24-hour pharmacy, stocking shelves and filling prescriptions until 3 a.m., only to drive straight to an 8 a.m. class on pharmacokinetics. While I was running on caffeine and 4 hours of sleep, my family was, well, they were living. See, in my family, I was the fixer, the responsible one, the one they called when things broke, which they always did. I wasn't just their daughter or their sister. I was their silent investor, their unpaid financial advisor, their safety net. I opened my laptop and pulled up a password-protected Excel file I'd created years ago. I called it the Family Ledger. It wasn't for sentimental reasons. It was for accounting. This wasn't a family. It was a portfolio of bad investments, and my name was on every single one. I stared at the numbers. $450,000 for a high-risk real estate loan my brother-in-law, Kyle, took out to flip a property in East Austin. He said it was a sure thing, but his credit was shot. I co-signed, or they would have lost their deposit. $45,000 for the luxury SUV my parents, Brenda and Scott, were driving. My father said they deserved a comfortable ride in their later years. The bank didn't agree. I co-signed. And then there was Morgan, my golden child older sister. $55,000. That was spread across 2 separate personal loans for what she called brand emergencies. Morgan was a lifestyle influencer, which meant she was constantly in crisis. One loan, for $25,000, was for new camera equipment. The other, for $30,000, was for a networking trip to Dubai that produced nothing but selfies. $550,000. I had been paying the interest on Morgan's loans for 6 months just to keep them from defaulting, all on a resident pharmacist's salary. I was eating instant noodles so my sister could post pictures of avocado toast. I wasn't just their family, I was their creditor. And that text message, that was their official notice of default. To understand why I wasn't weeping over that text, you need to understand what happened 2 hours earlier. I was at the Agave Room, a trendy restaurant in Austin that's always booked. I had reserved their best table 6 weeks in advance. My mentor, Dr. Wells, and my best friend, Chloe, were there right on time. My family, of course, arrived 30 minutes late. Morgan swept in, already taking selfies for her followers, while my parents, Brenda and Scott, fussed over my 16-year-old nephew, Aiden. The main event wasn't the food. It was the cake. I had paid $500 for it. It was a pharmaceutical work of art. 2 tiers, hand-painted with a caduceus symbol, a tiny marble mortar and pestle on top. The baker had even molded tiny sugar prescription bottles that lined the base, with labels that read patience, resilience, and integrity. It was a symbol of my entire 8-year struggle. When the staff brought it out, I stood up, my hands shaking just a little. I just want to thank everyone for... I never finished the sentence. Aiden, who had been sulking because no one was paying attention to him, suddenly stood up. He pulled out his phone. "And we're live," he smirked. He pointed the camera at me, then at the cake. "Time for your medicine, loser," he said. And he shoved it, both hands hard. The beautiful $500 creation toppled over the side of the table and hit the restaurant floor with a wet, sickening sound. There was a moment of shocked silence, and then I heard it. Laughter. My mother, Brenda, was giggling into her hand. My sister, Morgan, let out a sharp laugh and said, "Oh my God, Aiden, you're hilarious." My friend Chloe stared at her phone, her face pale. She'd been watching the live stream. It was all recorded. The humiliation, the laughter. Aiden deleted the stream seconds later, but it was too late. I looked at the mess on the floor, at my mentor's horrified face, and then at my family, who were already looking annoyed, as if I had caused the problem. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked to the manager, handed him my credit card, and paid the bill for the entire table. Then I walked out, alone. That was the humiliation. The text message, 2 hours later, was just the final prescription. So I was back in my apartment. It was now 12:03 a.m. My diagnosis was complete. The prescription was simple. My fingers moved on the keyboard. I didn't type in the family group chat where they had just disowned me. I sent individual messages to my mother, my sister, and my brother-in-law, Kyle. The message was identical. Understood. As you are severing family ties, I will be severing all financial ties. I will be contacting my lawyer on Monday to have my name removed from the $450,000 real estate loan, the $45,000 car loan, and the $55,000 in personal loans. Please prepare to refinance all $550,000 immediately. I hit send. Gaslighting storm began 12 seconds later. The phone didn't just buzz. It sounded like an angry hornet's nest had been kicked. The first message was from Morgan. "I cannot believe you are threatening our family. You're actually insane. You've always been jealous of Aiden, and now you're doing this over a stupid cake?" A text from my mother, Brenda, came a moment after. "You have created a massive, massive mess. Kyle is furious. You have no idea what you've done. You need to call us and apologize for your behavior right now." Apologize for my behavior. The clinical clarity I felt sharpened. This wasn't just dysfunction. It was a complete inversion of reality. They weren't just ungrateful. They were delusional. I put my phone on silent and went to bed. When I woke up at 8 a.m., I had 47 missed calls. But what caught my eye was the Facebook notification. My mother had posted something new. It was a picture of her and my father, smiling. The caption read, "It's so sad when some kids get successful and forget the people who raised them and gave them everything." I looked at the post. I looked at the 47 missed calls. They hadn't disowned me. They had defaulted on their loan, and now they were trying to damage my credit. This was no longer a family dispute. It was a business transaction, and it was time to call collections. I ignored the Facebook post. I ignored the 47 missed calls. Their panic was a symptom of their disease, not my problem. I made coffee, sat at my desk, and made a call. Not to my mother, but to an old friend from undergrad who was now one of the most ruthless family law attorneys in Austin. I explained everything. The 8 years of pharmacy school, the $550,000 in cosign debt, the family ledger, the humiliation at the restaurant, the gaslighting Facebook post, and the 11:51 p.m. text disowning me. She was silent for a moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was cold steel. "Elodie, you're not their family. You're their hostage, and they just gave you the key. You did the right thing by not responding. This is no longer a family drama. It's a financial decoupling. And that post, that's defamation." The validation was instant. I wasn't crazy. I was right. She continued, "I'm drafting formal notices. We'll send them via certified mail today. One to Kyle and Morgan, one to your parents. They'll have 30 days to refinance and remove your name from every single obligation, or we file a suit for the full amount plus damages. The game had changed. This wasn't a text message war. It was a legal battle. My lawyer called me back 3 days later. The professional calm in her voice was gone. She sounded angry. "Elodie," she said, "it's worse than we thought. That $30,000 personal loan for Morgan's brand?" "What about it?" I asked. I pulled the bank records. $15,000 went to a media company. Fine. The other $15,000 was wired directly to a corporate law firm. I did some digging. Your sister was sued 6 months ago by one of her sponsors for fraud. She was caught buying followers and faking her engagement numbers. She settled out of court. Elodie, she used your co-signed loan to pay for a fraud settlement, and she never told you. I sat back. The air left my lungs. It wasn't just irresponsibility. It wasn't just entitlement. It was criminal fraud, and my signature was at the bottom of it. The certified letters, which now included the $30,000 fraud allegation, were delivered on a Thursday. That night, my phone didn't just vibrate. It became a public nuisance. It was the sound of my family's self-destruction happening in real time. By midnight, I had 112 missed calls and texts. It was a symphony of panic. "Call me back, Elodie. I can't get refinanced with this fraud claim on the file. They'll call the whole loan. You're going to ruin us. You'll ruin me." "Elodie, please. Your father is having chest pains. How can you do this to him? He's your father." "I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry about the cake. I'm sorry about everything. Just stop this. You can't send me to jail. You're my sister. Please, Elodie, I'm begging you." I listened to every message. For 20 years, I had screamed to be heard, and my voice was always ignored. But the moment I stopped speaking, my silence was deafening. I learned that for a family safety net, your power isn't in your voice, it's in your absence. The panic in their calls wasn't love. It was the terror of gravity. It was the sound of people finally realizing they were falling, and I was no longer there to catch them. The final escalation came the next afternoon. A heavy, frantic banging on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. It was my mother, Brenda. She wasn't the put-together, gaslighting woman from the Facebook post. Her hair was a mess, her eyes red and wild. I opened the door. She lunged at me, grabbing my arm. "Elodie, you have to stop this. You have to call your lawyer," she shrieked. "They're going to take the house. Kyle's business is collapsing. They're talking about prosecuting Morgan. Do something for your sister. She's going to prison." I looked at her, and the last bit of emotional fog finally evaporated. I felt nothing. No anger, no pity. Just the cold, sterile precision of a pharmacist measuring a final, critical dose. "I am a pharmacist, Brenda," I said, my voice perfectly level. "I've been trained for 8 years. I know exactly what to do with a toxic element that's poisoning the entire system. You don't negotiate with it. You cut it out." I reached back inside, picked up a file from my desk, and handed her a copy of the formal complaint detailing the $30,000 wire fraud. "You need to give this to Morgan's lawyer," I said. "Goodbye." I closed the door on her sob, turned the deadbolt, and finally, for the first time, I felt something new. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was peace. The legal battle was brutal, but fast. Faced with criminal fraud charges, Morgan and Kyle didn't have a choice. They liquidated everything. The real estate property was sold at a loss. The luxury cars were repossessed. My name was scrubbed from every loan, every liability. The $550,000 of debt they had built was now, finally, just theirs. My parents, bankrupted by their own enabling and with their golden child safety net gone, sold their house and moved into a small rental apartment across town. A week later, the final wire transfer hit my account, clearing the last of the balances. I sat at my laptop and opened the family ledger one last time. I stared at the main cell, the one that read total liability, $550,000. I highlighted the entire row and I hit delete. We are taught that blood is thicker than water, but I learned that some blood is toxic. And I learned that setting a boundary isn't an act of hate, but a profound act of self-preservation. You have to be willing to let go of the family you were given to finally become the person you were meant to be. That night, for the first time in 8 years, I slept through until morning. Have you ever had to make the impossible choice between your family and your own survival? Please share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, subscribe, because standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's the first and most important step to healing.